Hi guys, today I'm going to talk a little bit about molds. I've gotten some questions about them, so I figured it would be a good idea to dedicate a whole video to them and give you all the ins and outs. One of the questions I got was, what can I use as a mold? And there's all kinds of stuff that you can buy out there that's meant to be a mold, and there's also some stuff that you can use that wasn't meant to be one, but it'll still work. Like these measuring cups I use to measure my resin in and stir it and all that. I've used that before, that bottom part, as that mold, as a circle. As long as there's some kind of give to it, you should be able to use it. This was not meant to be one, but there is that give. I can break the seal of the resin and get underneath it to pop it out. So that could be used as one too. Stuff that you can't really use is hard stuff. If I poured resin into this, there's no way it's coming out. There's no give. There's no way to pop up that piece and break that seal. So stuff like this isn't going to do well. You can't use something hard like that. It has to have that give so you can break the seal. As far as stuff that's meant to be used as a mold, I personally prefer silicone like this. For different things, like for polymer clay, these kind of molds are good, and for soap making, which is another thing I'm into, these really work. When you pour something into your mold, it's going to pick up all of that detail. If it's a matte surface, it's going to be a matte surface in the resin, so you need to be mindful of that. Which is why I have two molds, and I have one that's silicone. This is amazing mold putty, and it is really amazing stuff. But not always what we want to go for. This has a very matte finish. Anytime you get one of these or make one of these, if you pour resin into it, it's going to be matte. So I use that for soap because it doesn't matter if it's shiny or not. Like this was made with that mold. It doesn't matter if it's shiny or not. That's not a big deal. When you do want it to be shiny, I like to go with the thermoplastic. This is thermoplastic. And that you see that nice glossy finish. When you pop the piece out, you're going to see that. It'll pick up all of the detail. Here's another thermoplastic piece. I got this at Hobby Lobby, and it wasn't very expensive. It was like $6, I want to say. And here's a piece that was made with it. I have to say about these, I had to replace this one because I learned the hard way. You can't scrape up in there. I would get like debris or resin or glitter in there and would scrape at it to get it out. That's a big no-no. You don't want to do that because those scrapes will show up when you pour the piece. So anytime after I poured the piece in that scraped mold, it showed and I'd have to over varnish it and I wasn't really happy with it. So I replaced it and I learned my lesson. Do not scrape at these things. It's a bad idea. If you have to clean up inside of it, I suggest getting a paper towel or a piece of tissue and really wiping it away. Don't take your nail to it. It'll mess it up. You can get some good molds to work with at places like Target and Walmart. This was in Walmart in the cake baking section, and there's some other ones. There's a good selection. It was about $7. So you don't have to order everything online. You can get some supplies to work with near you. There's usually stores like that right near everybody. This is one I got at Walmart. It was in the seasonal section, actually, for Valentine's Day, and it was like $2. So if you keep an eye out for stuff like that, you can definitely use it. I haven't used this for resin. I've used it for soap, but it looks like it's going to have a matte finish. Like just by looking at it, I could tell that when these things pop out, I'm going to have to varnish them, which isn't the end of the world. But if I don't want to do that, I'm going to avoid anything that has a matte finish. I'll talk a little bit about Amazing Mold Putty now. Those are the ones, you'll see a lot of those on Etsy. I made this mold out of an owl bezel that I got a while back ago, and they discontinued them and I was really bent out of shape about it, so I took the one that I had left and made a mold. And they're good for polymer clay. These types of molds are good for polymer clay, so I took this owl mold and I made another owl bezel out of the clay. So for clay and soap, they're good. For resin, it's going to be matte. I recently came across some molds on Etsy, and they would pretty much change my life. I'm going to be honest. I know that sounds ridiculous, but let me explain. So they're these clear silicone. This is a rose. Here's one. They're very dark, but you get the idea. So this rose is in this clear silicone, and I had never worked with this silicone before. I'd never gotten a mold like it. So I went ahead and ordered, and they you put the resin in and the piece pops out and it's so glossy and it's so shiny and you don't need to varnish it at all. Platinum silicone, I believe, is what this stuff is called, and even the thicker stuff like this. But these clear molds are amazing. They're so amazing that I went ahead, I couldn't get these anymore. I ordered over and over from this woman, and I'm so excited that I got as many as I did. But then she discontinued them and I didn't know what to really do. So I went ahead and I bought the silicone that they're made of. I think this stuff is a higher grade though, to be honest. It's still that clear silicone, it's just better stuff. It was expensive though. It was like 50 bucks for this and the shipping. So it is what it is, I guess, but I went ahead and learned how to use the stuff and made my own rose molds now. So it's the same thing, it's just a little different. Like you can even tell and like the give that they're both high quality silicone, but I think this is really the better stuff. A cheaper alternative that I have used a lot of, I mean, I made all of these molds. Here's a gear, and you saw the owl, and this is just, I used a marble, there's soap all over it, sorry. I used a marble and made a sphere mold with that. It's really, really versatile stuff. I really like it. It just doesn't always work for what I want it to work for. So this is amazing mold putty. And I got it at Hobby Lobby. You see the price is still on it. I used the 40 off coupon. And that's all good and well. It lasted a long time. Like, I'm going to say that. I recently picked up some more. But I had this stuff for like, probably like a year. I had it for a long time. Now you see it's pretty much gone. I did pick up another container or set of containers of it because it's good stuff. So there's that. And I think while we have all of this stuff out, I will go ahead and use the amazing mold putty and do a little demo of how to use that. I am going to say that I am not the best at it. I'm just going to put that right out there. But I can show you the basics. It's easy stuff. You mix half and half, equal parts, knead it up into a ball for, let me see what the box says, 1 minute. Knead it up for 1 minute, and then you just work it over the piece you want to make a mold of. And we'll go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clear all of this out. And I'm just going to use this little square of wax paper. I'm going to use this music note. It's a polymer clay music note that's just been laying around. I'm going to use it, and I'm using one that's messed up right there just to show you that anything that you put the mold stuff on, anything you make a mold of, it will show up. It will be there. So you want to have your object as perfect as it can possibly be. So I'm going to set that down. Okay, you're going to take half of one and you're going to take half of the other. And we're going to mix them up real well. I'm going to scoot over here. Okay, so we got it all mixed up. This is important. You're going to take your piece. You want the area you lay it down on to be smooth. You see how that's nice and smooth, and on that other side we have the wrinkles and all that going on. You don't want those wrinkles to be in your mold putty because it will show up. Okay. So I've seen all kinds of ways to do this. I can already tell I didn't make enough putty, but just humor me here. Okay, how I go about it is smush it right on there, get all up around it, and just pack it in and pack it around. And I try to keep a flat surface on the back here because you're going to flip it over and you're going to be working with it that way. So as long as it's not rocking around and all that, you're good. To avoid that, just try and make the back as flat as you can. Okay, so I'm going to pack it all around. And I've messed these up more than once. I don't even know why I went with the music note. You're going to have to bear with me here because, like I said, I'm not a master at this. This stuff is way easier to use. Really, really touchy. Like, you can't mix it with wood sticks and you can't put it in paper because if there's sulfur in it, I guess, then it'll inhibit the curing and no dice. So I've just been stirring it with a knife pretty much in plastic, and it's been working out for me. But you got to be mindful of stuff like that. It drives me kind of crazy that all the different craft stuff has all its little rules you have to work around and work with. But it is what it is. Okay, so we got that all packed down. I can already kind of feel it starting to give a little bit, so we're going to leave that be. It says to let it cure for 20 minutes. I'm kind of impatient and don't wait 20 minutes, but it says to let it cure for 20 minutes. Okay, so we're gonna let that set up. I'm gonna put it aside for a little bit and talk a little bit more about using the different kind of silicone. If you're serious about resin, I just highly suggest this stuff. How I go about using that is it's a 50-50, just like the Amazing Mold Putty, and just like the resin, actually. It's 50-50 like all kinds of other stuff. You mix one half, you mix the other half, mix them up. And then what I do is I use this thing that I demonstrated can be used as a mold and drop it in there. I think for more intricate stuff, you need to use some kind of clay or something to hold it down, but I just rip off the silicone that gets underneath it, and it works perfectly for what I need it to work for. So I do all that, I mix up all my stuff, and I put it in there and let it set. And you can see how this rose mold I made actually came from in there. So that's how that works. If you have any questions about that, please hit me up, because I really suggest people who are serious about resin use this. I'm even going to use these molds that I have. Oh, the thermoplastic to make those ones. The thermoplastic is really good stuff. It will give you a shiny finish, but there will be watermarks sometimes. Like you can look in here and you can see right there how it's not catching the light like the other parts. And it does show up. I do have to glaze these pieces anytime I pop them out. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do here soon is just pour some resin in here and make the heart, and then make a mold with the nicer stuff after I've varnished the piece, because then I won't have to worry about it ever again. It'll pop right out, it'll be totally shiny. So I'm gonna try and switch over to the nicer stuff slowly. When you're moving up to the next level. For beginner, this is fine, and this is fine, and this is fine. Just don't scratch the thermoplastic. So now that we've covered all that, I do want to talk about places you can get molds. I'm always on the lookout for more molds. With the soaping and with the resin, I'm always looking for something new to use. When I go to the stores, I look for fancy ice cubes is one. I've gotten some stuff at Hastings before that were in the ice cube aisle. In the cake baking aisle is another one. Thrift stores. I'm always on the lookout at thrift stores. Those are the places that I will always immediately go and I will check out and see what they have to offer. They generally have cool stuff just at the stores that are near you, so check them out. And when you go online, Etsy is a great place. eBay is another one. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go back to our Amazing Mold Putty mold we made earlier, and I'm going to point something out that I just learned right now. Usually I'll do that on a plate or I'll do it on foil. I haven't done it on wax paper anymore. It turns out that's a really, really good idea, because I can see the bottom and I can see that I didn't get right there well enough. You see there's that wrinkle in the putty and I messed that up, and it's not as close as I would like it to be there, but had I thought about it, I could have flipped it around after when it was still malleable, and I could have caught those and fixed that. So I suggest making stuff on the wax paper, because you can flip it around and you can see what's going on. So we learned something new together. I'm going to go ahead and take this up now, and you saw from the other side of the wax paper what we have. So I'm going to go ahead and pop it out, and there we have, oh, let me focus that. There we have our mold. And there, up in here, you could see what I pointed out earlier about that imperfection. It'll pick it all up. It'll totally pick it all up. And now when I use resin or when I use soap or anything in it, that divot is going to be in there. So make sure that whatever you make a mold of is really in good shape, you know, because you'll see that. Okay. Well, we covered the basics of molds and got into a little bit more detail advanced stuff. If there's something I didn't cover or any more questions that you have, please feel free to leave them in the comment box. Okay, so while I was editing, I realized that I forgot to talk about mold release spray, and it's because I don't use it. That's why I didn't really think about it, but I should probably go ahead and break that down anyways. Mold release spray is a spray. It comes in a bottle. Like, this is not the spray. I threw mine out a long time ago because I just wasn't using it. But it comes in a spray bottle like this, and you spray it into all the cavities that you want to pour your resin in, and you let it dry, and it's supposed to provide a barrier that helps the piece pop out easier. But I've learned that you don't even really need it. If you get the air under the resin piece and break that seal, you can really just pop it out. Like you could flip it around and you can just push on it and it'll pop right out. So I don't find the mold release to be necessary, but you can go ahead and give it a shot. Of course, you might like it. It may work a lot better for you. It's near the resin stuff and the mold stuff like this at Hobby Lobby and Michael's and what have you, and it's just a bottle of spray. I think Cast and Craft makes it, so that's an option for you if you would like to use it. I hope you learned a lot out of this. Please like and comment and subscribe and all that jazz that comes with YouTube. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you have a great day.